Hey guys, we're back. Here it is. Version 1.2 is out, at least in beta for now. And there are a bunch of new things, some little new features, and the big one, special events that will happen once per year, are now in. Now, if you are using a custom preset for Automobilista 2, there is an important thing that you need to do. I will get to that a bit later in the video. I want to get some things out of the way first, but you need to do this, otherwise it's not going to work. You need to make a little change in the database. Before we get into the events, there are a few things that we need to get through first. I want to finish with the events. So first of all, the first thing you want to do is go into the settings, and you're going to check the DLC and save. This is going to update all the databases to the new version. If you have modified some of the default presets, you're going to want to make a backup before saving. They will be overridden. Now, if you pay attention, you're going to see a few small changes right here. First of all, we have this right here, max cars for both games. What this does is, well, basically, I'm pretty sure you can guess what it is. It's going to set a maximum number of cars. Some folks are using less powerful PCs, and maybe you cannot run 30 cars in a race. So if you set it to 20 cars, well, you're going to limit the game to 20 cars. Now, there's a little caveat here. This number includes your car as a spectator. So if you want to have a 20-car race, I suggest putting it to 21 instead of 20. I have a solid PC, so I'm going to set it to 64 cars plus mine 65. And the other option that you can see that is new is this one here. What the hell is that? Show extra support stream embed. Now, this is something that is completely optional. If you check this and you save, there's going to be an embed of my stream that appears right here. You can mute it and click play, and you get to support me without having to do anything. I have made it so that this is completely out of the way. It's going to settle down into the bottom right corner. It's not going to block anything. It will never be in the way. Like I said, this is completely optional. If you want to send some extra support my way, just, start the stream and leave it on while you're playing. It's going to be using a little bit of your bandwidth, and that's about it. I have looked at the Twitch terms of service for a stream embed, and I am in accordance with all of their terms of service by doing this. And yeah, this is just an easy way for you to send some extra support my way. Don't feel bad if you don't want to do it, okay? If you don't feel like having this stream on, just turn it off. Don't feel bad. You're supporting me through Patreon. You don't need to feel bad about anything. So for this demo, I'm going to keep it off. Now, another new feature is that if you want to add some tracks, you can simply do a new text document and call it road T1 _ whatever mod team created the track. And this will be added into your career seamlessly. You can just put whatever tracks you want in there, share this file, and anyone who has that track can simply drag and drop into a preset and add the tracks. You can add as many of those files as you want. This is an easy way to add custom tracks to any career. Another new feature that you may notice is that before, if you created a race and then you went back to the menu and then came back into the race, it would generate randomly. You would end up with a different car. You may end up against different opponents, different tracks, different settings. Everything would be different. Not anymore. You will notice this little racestate.bin. This is basically saving whatever race is being generated so that every time you come back, it's going to be the exact same thing. So if you're wondering what this file is, this is what it is. If you want to regenerate it from scratch, just delete it, and then it's going to behave exactly like it was before. It's going to generate anew each time. Now, for the database change that you need to make for Automobilista 2, I have changed the way the tiers database is set up. I have moved the full code. It was at the full right. I brought it back closer to the name and class and everything. I wanted all the track types to be right next to each other, and I have added this row right here, Rallycross. I didn't know what to do with the Rallycross racetracks earlier because they had such a tiny grid. I decided to make them separate from the dirt tracks. Dirt tracks have an entry, and then Rallycross have their own entry, separate from the rest. By default, no cars are going to be racing on Rallycross tracks, except for some special events that I'm sharing. I'm going to walk you guys through that in just a little bit. But if you have a custom tiers database for Automobilista 2, you need to update it to this format right here. So just open up both the default one that has been updated and yours, and just copy paste the rows in, and you should be able to update it in less than 5 minutes. It's just a bunch of copy pastes. And once you've done that, you're all set, you're good to go. Now, for the special events. This is the big one for this update. What is a special event? Basically, a special event is a special race that is not part of a season. It's completely separate from everything. It's a standalone race that happens once per year. That will be basically an invitational event. You will race against people who are not in your tier or division. And I have made these events to be, just like the rest of the app, as customizable as possible. I truly believe that you can make pretty much anything you can think of in this with just a few settings. I had to make it as simple and as flexible as possible, and I actually think I pulled it off. So let's take a look. I have created a few pre-made events that I have shared on my Discord. If you guys want to get them, they're completely free. Go ahead, and they actually serve as pretty good examples of what you can do. Let's take a look at the Spa 2.4 hours event. Now, the events are a simple JSON file, just like most of the things this app uses. You can just open it in a text file, and this is what it looks like. So let's go through them one by one. Event title, this is the event that will show up on the calendar. When the event is about to come up in the calendar, this is what you're going to see. One important little caveat here, this has to be unique. You cannot have two events that have the same name. If you have the same event that happens multiple times per year, what you can do is simply add like July and just change the name for each month. Now, event month and event week, this is the time of the year where the event is going to be run. So this event is going to be run on the 4th week of July every year. Track. Now this is a lot more flexible than it seems at first. Now you're just seeing a name. If you want to put a name in there, I suggest going in the tracks database, and you're going to get the name field. This is the name that you're going to use. I suggest simply doing a copy and paste to make sure that there's no spelling mistake. Just copy it in there. And what you can do is, if you want, you can do like, okay, Spa / or Catalunya. And whenever the event comes up, it will pick one of these tracks randomly. You can add as many as you want. What you can do also is say, okay, I want a road tier 1 track or a road tier 2 track. You can do this, and this will pick any track that falls in these categories. So doing this, you're going to have any full-length racetrack in the game is going to be eligible for this event. For now, we're just going to leave it to Spa, but I think you can see what you can do with this. Then you have these settings here, the duration. This is pretty much self-explanatory. This is the duration in minutes for each session, practice, qualifying, and race. If you want, you can set a fixed number of laps as well. Obviously, you can't use both. If you use both, one of them is going to take priority over the other. I can't remember. So like if you want 60 laps instead, just type 60 in there and set this to 0, and there you go. The race is going to be 60 laps. Practice start time, qualifying start time, and race start time. This is the time in a 24-hour format where the session is going to begin. Time progression, this is how fast the clock is going to go. So since this is meant to be the spot 24 hours, but I don't actually want to drive for 24 hours, I divide it by 10 and make the time go 10 times faster. This means that the race is going to go around the clock for a 24-hour format. Now, class 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yes, I now support 4 classes in the app. 4 special events, not for the regular season races. Those are still limited to 3 classes. But for the special events, if you want, you can have a 4th class. And this works the same way as it did for the tracks. You can do GT3 / GT4. And either of these tracks will be selected randomly. What you can do is GT3 and GT4. Or what you can do also, which can end up being pretty interesting, do GT3 / GT4. Actually, let's go further than that. GTE, GT3, and GT4 randomly. And you can paste that. Now what this is going to do, this may look stupid, okay? But there's a method to the madness. It's going to look at class 1 cars. It's going to pick one of these cars randomly. Right, so it's going to go, okay, let's go with GT3. And then it's going to go to the second class. And it's going to pick one of them randomly. If it picks GT3 again, it's simply going to leave it empty. You cannot multi-class the same car over and over again. And then it's going to make it to third class and it's going to go, okay, GT4. And you're going to have a multi-class with GT3 and GT4. That's it. Or you could end up with all 3 classes in the same race. Or you could end up with only GTE and nothing else. This is going to add a lot of randomness to how the classes are generated. And again, you can add as many classes as you want in there. You can do some pretty creative stuff with this. I have, like I said, shared a bunch of special events demos on my Discord. Go ahead and take a look. You can do some pretty crazy stuff with this. Now, these entries right here, class 1, max tier, and min tier. Now, this here is how it's going to pick the different drivers that are going to race in each category. So for class 1, max tier is the highest this driver can be. And minimum tier is the lowest the driver can be to be eligible for this class. So 1 and 4 is going to find a driver that is between tier 1 and 4 inclusively. Now there is a little caveat here, which is pretty interesting. This, if you look at the database, is not the tier. It is the highest field. Highest is the highest tier you have reached. So if we look at highest right now, we can see Nate Lupson is currently tier 4. However, he has reached tier 1 in the past. He is a platinum driver, so he is eligible for a tier 1 entry. Any driver that has earned the title of platinum driver will be eligible for racing in a tier 1 class. Now, if you want, you can do like tier 3 to 5, and any driver that has reached the highest tier between 3 and 5 inclusively will be eligible for this class in particular. You can do a different setting for all of the classes. And then you have this entry right here, class 1 selection and driver elimination rate. Now what this does, for the class selection, you have 4 possible values. Obviously 1, 2, 3, and 4. What this does, setting it to 1 will select drivers with the highest rating who are in an eligible tier. If you set it to 2, it's going to sort based on how many races the drivers have done. And this is going to pick the people who have made the most races. So if you look at the races done, sort by highest, these drivers are going to have priority. And again, you still need to be in an eligible tier to make it in. If you set it to 3, it's the opposite. It's going to look at the people with the least amount of races who are in an eligible tier. So if you want to make an event where the drivers featured are going to be new drivers that are working their way up the ranks, well, this is what you're going to use. Now, number 4, oops, not 5. Now 4 is going to be completely random. Any driver that is eligible will have the same odds of making it in. There's no pattern to this, it's completely random selection. Now, driver elimination rate. This is to add a bit of variety. If you go by highest rating and the same drivers stay on top all the time, you're going to come up with the same drivers showing up over and over again. And if you want a bit of variety, you can add this. What this is going to do is that it's going to eliminate 50% of the eligible drivers randomly. So it's going to pick all of the highest rated drivers, randomly discard 50% of them, and the remaining 50% will be entered into the event. Now again, a little caveat here, the career app will always keep enough drivers to fill out the class as much as possible. So even if you set this to 100% so that it discards everyone, the app will still keep enough drivers to fill the class. So if you need 20 cars, you're gonna get 20 drivers. If you're going to use value 1, I would recommend a higher number to keep the variety up. Also, to be realistic, the highest rated drivers are probably going to be pretty busy and in demand, so they are going to be less available to race. So a higher value makes it better in this case and also makes it less repetitive. For number 2, I would say the same, since the drivers with the highest race count are probably going to stay at the top for a while until their retirement. I would put a pretty high number up here. For number 3, since it's the drivers with the least races, you could go for a way lower rating and they will probably not come up often again. And for number 4, it literally doesn't matter. You can put anything, it's completely meaningless. Now, last 3 values. Rolling start, 0 or 1. 0 is standing start, 1 is rolling start. Mandatory stop, same thing, 0. 0 is no mandatory stop. 1 is, yes, you need to make a pit stop. Rewards multiplier. Now this is a very powerful one. This is how much your rating is going to change after the race. If you set it to 2, your rating is going to go up or down twice as much. Now be very careful with this. Be very, very, if you set it up to like 10, now 10 doesn't look like a big number. It is huge. If in a big race you end up crashing out, worst case scenario, you crash out and you finish dead last. Instead of losing 40 rating, you would lose 400. This could completely ruin your career. I would never use such a big number. I would say 3 would be about the max I would want to go. For the Spa 2.4 hours and the other endurance events I've shared, I set it up to 2. For sprint events, you can use decimals, by the way. 0.5 is what I've used, so that, you know, it's just a little sprint race. It's going to adjust your rating just a little bit without doing too much damage. If you crash out, it's not a big deal. Or you can simply set it to 0, you know, for events like the Monterey Motorsports Reunion, which I have made a setting for, which I will share on the Discord. You can make a race just for fun. This is not going to adjust your rating at all. You can finish dead last, doesn't matter. Now, this was for Automobilista 2. For Spa, very similar. Event title, same thing. Month and week, same thing. Track, this is going to be the code field for your database. So if you look at the Road Tier 1 database, it's going to be this entry right here. Now there is a special caveat here once again. If you use a track with a specific layout like Barcelona right here, let's copy this, and you want to put it in here, either Spa or Barcelona, there's one little thing: you need to put a second backslash. This is a JSON formatting thing. As far as I can tell, there is no fixing this. So you need to put a double backslash for every track with a specific layout. Otherwise, you can do the same as in Automobilista and just put Road T1/Road T2. All of this works exactly the same. Just make sure you put a double backslash, otherwise you're going to get an error. Duration works the same. Race laps works the same. Start time, practice works. The way start time works in Assetto Corsa, these two are completely useless. The way it works in Assetto Corsa, it's going to start the practice at this time, and the qualifying is going to start at whatever time practice ends, and race is going to start at whatever time qualifying ends. So these two values are completely useless. You just put whatever in there, it doesn't matter. I'll just put the same value, but only the practice time is going to matter. That's it. Time progression, same thing. For the class cars, it's the same principle. You just go in the database. Actually, you don't even need a database. You need the class name, the text file name. The same name that the text file uses in the cars folder. So if you want to use, say, GT4, copy this name and just add it in here. Same principle, you can add as many slashes as you want, all the 4 different classes. Same principle for the driver selection and elimination and all of that. This is all the same. Rolling start, doesn't matter, doesn't exist in Assetto Corsa. I kept the same format for the whole file, so you know there are some useless entries in here. Rolling start and mandatory stops do not exist for Assetto Corsa. Doesn't matter, just leave them at 0. Rewards multiplier works the same way. Also, one little caveat for Assetto Corsa. If you're going to add a track to an event, the track needs to be in one of the tracks file in the preset that you've selected. If it's not anywhere in those track files, it's going to give you an error because it's not going to find the track and the length of the laps that it needs to set up. So whatever track you use, you need to make sure that it is in one of those text files. Otherwise, you're going to get an error. And that's it. That's everything for setting up a special event. Now, let's look at some examples that I've made. And I have shared on my Discord again. If you want to get in there, they're all shared. Now, I said earlier the Monterey Motorsports Reunion, which is one of my favorite racing events of the year. It's an event at Laguna Seca where old race cars from all different eras come and they actually have a race. It's a bit like the Goodwood Festival of Speed, but at Laguna Seca. And it turns out Laguna Seca is in both Automobilista and Assetto Corsa, so I just had to make this event. So for AMS2, you have the Monterey Reunion 1960s Formula 1, where you have Formula Vintage Gen 1, Vintage Gen 2, and Formula Junior. Now, the reason I have set it up like this is because you're essentially going to end up with a random combination of the three classes. You could end up with all three, you could end up with only one or only two of them randomly. Every time this event comes up, it's going to be different. Then I have created 1970s Formula 1 with Retro Gen 1 and Retro Gen 2. Same principle. 1980s F1, Formula Classic Gen 1 through 4 and Retro Gen 3. Same principle. Then the Reunion Vintage GT, which is going to be the GT Classics and the Vintage Touring Tier 1 and 2. Same principle, randomly generated each time. And the Retro Endurance, which is going to be Group C and Group A. All of these files are going to be available on my Discord. I have also created for AMS2 the Indy 250, which is half the length of the Indy 500. It's going to randomly select any of the Indy cars classes. And I have created a pack of rallycross events, monthly rallycross events like this. Champions Rallycross for January. This is going to be an event that will happen every single month. Remember, you need to have a unique name. So if you want to have 12 different events for the entire year, you need to put a different name. Now, what's going to happen with this is that each month, there's going to be a rallycross race where all of the top drivers are going to be matched up against each other. There's a very little reward, only half points for this, but it's going to happen every single month. I have also created a very similar event called Rising Stars, which is the same principle, except instead of rallycross cars, it's going to be Formula Dirt. It's also going to be a monthly event, except this time it's going to be matching up new drivers against each other. So Rising Stars says that it's drivers that are coming up the rank, who have very few races under their belt. They are going to be matched up against each other every single month. Now, there is a little problem that I have found with rallycross races in Automobilista 2. And I am pretty pissed about this because I found out about this yesterday. When I was all done making this, I was all done making the entire app. I was completely done making the update. I was completely done making these events, and I was just, testing for bugs. I found a little problem. Let's take a look at what it is. Now, if you set up a rallycross race like this, set up your opponents, same class, everything, this is all fine, right? Except that there's one problem. The Joker lap is not going to happen. The AI will completely ignore the Joker lap. There is no rules and regulation for Joker laps, and the AI will just not do it. If you want the AI to do the Joker lap, you have to go in preset selection right here and select Rallycross. Now that's fine, right? Except that there's one problem. If you go into opponent settings, you can't change the number of opponents that you have. You can't change that. And what's going to happen is that at some point, the app is going to ask you to create a race with one less driver. This is going to happen. It will happen at some point. And there's no way for you to remove a driver. Now, I thought I was being a smartass. I figured out that if you click reset the defaults, it actually unlocks it and you can remove a driver, except that it doesn't work. It's just a visual glitch. If you save and come back, it's back to 5. It doesn't work. You cannot remove a driver. And this is going to be a problem. And like I said, I'm pissed because I'm all done with this and now I'm figuring out that there's a big problem with this. So try to get their attention, try to get Rise's attention. We need to be able to remove a driver from the Rallycross preset, or, you know, make the AI do a Joker lap without the preset. Either of those will work. Or even better yet, allow us to have 30 car races on Rallycross tracks with a Joker lap. This would be insane. Please, we know it's possible. It's possible. Let us do it, please. Anyways, that was my rant. If you're going to be using the Champions Rallycross events or the Rising Stars events, for now, I would probably suggest replacing RX tracks with dirt tracks. Since there's no Joker lap anyways, might as well just have more cars on track and make it more of a chaos. Now, I believe this covers everything there is to know about this new update. All of the presets that I've showed you guys are available on Discord. Link in the description. I'm going to be releasing this as a beta for now. I'm going to leave it that way for a little while, see if there's any big bugs that come out, and then I will release it to all Patreon supporters. So if you guys encounter any bugs, let me know on Discord. I'm going to fix them as quickly as possible. And I believe that concludes everything about this update. I will see you guys next time. Enjoy the racing. Bye-bye.